This is chapter 62 of Life of Pi. I slept in fits that night shortly before the sunrise. I gave up trying to fall asleep again and lifted myself in an elbow. I spied with my little eye a tiger. Richard Parker was restless. He was moaning, growling, and panting about the lifeboat. It was impressive. I assessed the situation. He couldn't be hungry, or at least not dangerously hungry. Was he thirsty? His tongue hung from his mouth, but only on occasion. He was not panting. His stomach and paws still wet, but they were not dripping wet. There probably wasn't much water left in the boat. Soon he would be thirsty. I looked up at the sky and the clouds had vanished, but for a few wisps on the horizon the sky was clear. It would be another hot, rainless day. The sea moved in the three-drick way as I already exhausted the oncoming heat. I sat against the mast of the thought over our problem. The biscuits of the fishing gear assured us of a solid part of our diet. It was liquid part and was the rub. It came down to what was so abundant around us, but marred by salt. I could perhaps mix some sea water in fresh water, but I had to procure more fresh water to start with. The cans would not be long-lasting between two of us. In fact, I was loath to share even one with Richard Parker, and I would be foolish to rely on rainwater. The solar stoves were the only possible source of drinkable water. I looked at them doubtfully, and I had been out 2 days now. I noticed that one of them had lost a little air. I pulled on the rope to tend to it. I topped off its cone with air. Without any real expectations, I reached underwater, for a distill punch was clipped to the round buoyancy chamber. My fingers took hold of the bag, and unexpectedly fat a shiver of thrill went through me. I controlled myself. As likely not, salt water had leaked in. I unhooked the pouch and, following the instructions, lowered it and tilted the still so any more water from beneath the cone might float into it. I closed 2 small taps and led the pouch, detached it, and pulled it out of the water. It was rectangular in shape and made a thick, soft yellow plastic and carbonation marks on one side. I tasted the water. I tasted again. It was salt-free. "My sweet sea cow," I exclaimed in the solar still. "You produced, and how? What delicious milk, mind you, little rubbery. But I'm not complaining. Why? Look at me drink." I finished the bag, and a capacity of little liter was nearly full. After the moment of sigh-producing, shut-eyed satisfaction, the reattachment of the pouch, I checked the other drills. Each of them had utterly similar heavy and collected fresh milk, over 8 liters of it. The fish bucket. Instantly, these technological contraptions became as precious to me as a cattle to a farmer. Indeed, as they floated placidly in the ark, they looked almost like cows grazing in the field. I ministered to their needs, making sure that there was enough seawater inside, and each cone's chambers inflated the pressure. Right after adding the seawater to their bucket's contents, I placed on the side beneath the bench and beyond the tarp. With the little of the morning coolness, Richard Parker seemed safely settled below. I tied to the buckets in place using rope and tarp hooks on the side of the boat. I carefully peeked over the gunwale. He was laying on his side. His den was foul sight. The dead mammals are heaped together in a grotesque pile of decayed animal parts. I recognized a leg or two, various patches of hide parts, of a dead great numbered of bones, flying fish, winged and scattered about. I cut a flying fish and tossed piece of the side bench. After I gathered what I needed for the day from the locker, I was ready to go. I tossed another piece of the tarp in front of Richard Parker. It had to be intend effect. As I drifted away, I saw him come out of into an open fetch of morsel of a fish. His head turned, and he noticed another morsel and the new object next to him. He lifted himself. He hung his huge head over the bucket. Over the bucket, I was afraid that he would trip over. He didn't. His face disappeared into barely fitting. He started to lap up the water. In very little time, the bucket started shaking, rattling emptily, and each strike of his tongue. When he looked up, I stared him aggressively, his little eyes, and I blew on his whistle a few times. He disappeared under the tarp. It occurred to me that with every passing day, the lifeboat was resembling a zoo enclosure more and more. Richard Parker was his sheltered area for sleeping and resting, his food stash, his lookout, and now his water hole. The temperature climbed. The heat became stifling. I spent the rest of the day in the shade in the canopy fishing. It seems I had beginner's luck with the first dorado. I caught nothing the whole day, not even in the late afternoon, when marine life appeared in abundance. A turtle turned up, the different kind of time. The green sea turtle were bulkier and smoother shelled, but curious, the same fixed weight as a hawksbill. I did nothing. The only good thing about the day was so hot that the sight of the solar stills presented. Every cone was covered on inside with drops, ritualets, and condensation. The day I ended up calculated the next morning would make it since the tsunami had sunk. Titsuma.